Okay, this is the beginning of video 9 part 2. In part 1 we looked at matter and we looked at pure substances, and I defined for you elements and compounds. Then we recognized that there's different types of compounds, and the two types of compounds that we're going to be most concerned with are ionic compounds and covalent compounds. In the last lecture we looked at recognizing and naming and predicting the formulas for ionic compounds based on the names of those ionic compounds. Right now what I want to do is talk to you about covalent compounds. Now, covalent compounds are called covalent compounds based on the way the atoms within the molecule are held together. Molecules are held together by what's called covalent bonds. And elements, as we saw, can exist as diatomic molecules, which are held together by covalent bonds, or compounds, combinations of different elements, can be held together by by bonds called covalent bonds. All right. So in this slide here, what I'm showing you is a model of how covalent molecules are formed. Whereas in the ionic compounds, the individual ions were just held together by very strong electrostatic attractions between the positive charges of the cation and the negative charges of the anion. The covalent molecules are actually sharing valence electrons. That's where that word covalent comes from. So this is just a model of two hydrogen atoms coming together to form a diatomic molecule, the diatomic element H2. Another hydrogen atom. The electrons in this atom are being attracted by that nucleus, and the electrons on this atom are being attracted by that nucleus, and there's a certain, this is just an energy diagram, don't worry about it too much, but there's a certain minimum energy where they're close enough but not too far away, not close enough but not too close such that the nucleus repel each other too much, but not too far away for the electron of one atom to be attracted by the nucleus of the other atom. And when that happens, we form a covalent bond. And covalent compounds are also referred to as molecules. They're discrete collections of atoms that are held together by covalent attractions. Okay, so covalent molecules are typically formed between nonmetals and nonmetals. I need to point this out to you because when we're naming compounds, we use different systems of nomenclature depending on whether or not it's an ionic compound or a covalent compound. The ionic compound is the metal name, then the anion name with the IDE suffix, or the polyatomic anion. In covalent molecules, it's similar in that we have, in this particular examples, we have the different atoms that are held together by the covalent bonds are named differently. And they're typically, we identify them as collections between nonmetals and other nonmetals. I've already talked to you about the 7 common diatomic elements. They are covalent compounds, and you need to memorize them. Hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, bromine, chlorine, and iodine. We're going to be looking at the Lewis structures in the next unit. We're not going to worry about the Lewis structures of covalent compounds right now. I gave your teacher a simple worksheet for looking at very, very simple Lewis structures of very, very simple diatomic molecules, but we're going to take a detailed look in the next unit. So don't worry so much about that right now. What I want you to know simply is how to recognize and how to name these covalent compounds.